Today we'll be talking about lines and angles. We've been talking about lines and we've been talking about angles, but today we're going to see how they correspond and some similarities and how they relate to one another. So in your composition books on the right hand side, make sure that you title your composition book Lines and Angles. First, let's look at parallel lines. We talked about this in algebra last year. So parallel lines have the same slope, but in geometry we're going to use the terms that we've learned so far. Parallel lines have to be coplanar, which means they're on the same plane, and they cannot intersect. So let me give you an example of that. So let's write our plane. So we'll do a flat plane. And remember, you can stop at any point in this video and pause it and record. And let's say we have a line going this way and a parallel line is going this way. So those two lines are on the same plane and they do not intersect. Those are parallel lines. Now I'm going to introduce something new, skew lines. We talked about parallel last time. We talked about intersecting last year. But skew lines are a little different. So they're not coplanar and they do not intersect. We've done some drawings, but we haven't labeled this actually. So I'm going to do a plane, just a flat plane. And I'm going to put a line lying on that plane. Now I'm going to do skew lines. So I'll create a line and it's going to go straight up and straight through that plane. So they are not coplanar. The line doesn't lie in that plane, yet it does not intersect with that line. So those are skew lines. It may go through the plane, but it does not lie in the plane. Parallel lines, we've talked about those before. Or I'm sorry, parallel planes. We've talked about lines before, but we're going to talk about planes now. So parallel planes are very similar to the lines. They just do not intersect. So you would write a plane, so a flat surface. And then you want to draw another flat surface below it. So you're showing that these two planes do not intersect. So those are parallel planes. So once again, for this page you have parallel lines, skew lines, and parallel planes. Let's go to the next page. If you can keep writing on your page, then go for it. We're going to learn some postulates regarding parallel and perpendicular lines. So you're going to go to Quizlet and get your new cards, and we'll adhere those to the index cards when you come into class on Thursday. Postulate 13 is the parallel postulate. If there is a line and a point not on the line, so let me give you an example of that. So we have a line like this, and then we have a point that is not on that line. It's right up here. And let's call it point A. Then there is exactly one line through the point parallel to the given line. So you can make a line right through that A, and that makes a parallel line with the line below. So they're just saying that if you have a line and there's a point above it or below it, you can draw a straight line through that with the same slope, and it makes the two lines parallel. Now let's look at the perpendicular postulate. And this states if there is a line and a point not on the line, so let's make our line, do our little line, and then we have our point up here, and we'll call it point A again. Then there's exactly one line through the point perpendicular to the given line. So we can just draw a line straight through, and it needs to go at a 90-degree angle in order to be perpendicular. So we draw our little box to indicate 90 degrees. And basically this postulate's just saying is if you have a line and there's a point, you want to draw a line straight down so that you create a 90-degree angle in order to make perpendicular lines. So if you need to pause it and write down your postulate right now and sketch this, go for it. Now we'll talk a little bit about transversals. So a transversal, all this is a line that intersects two or more coplanar lines at different points. So all of that vocabulary sounds scary. So we know what a line is. We know what intersect means, just crosses through. Two or more coplanar lines. So that just means these two lines right here are coplanar. They're in the same plane. And this line crossing through it is called the transversal. So you can write transversal there. So you can always create a transversal. If you have two lines and you just draw a straight line through it, that's your transversal. And I labeled my angles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 because I want to talk to you about the different types of angles when you use a transversal. So there's something called corresponding angles. So in this case, for the drawing I did, the corresponding angles would be 1 and 5. So if you look, you have 1 here and 5 here. You could say that 3 and 7 are corresponding. 3 and 7. You could say that 2 and 6 are corresponding. So basically, corresponding angles just mean that they're in the same position as the other angle. So you have that transversal coming through. The 1 is in the same position as the 5 down here. Call those corresponding angles. Now we're going to look at alternate exterior angles. An example of that is going to be angle 1 and 8. So if you look at those, you have angle 1 here and you have angle 8 here. They're exterior, which means they're on the outside, and they're alternate. They're opposite one another. So you have the 1 here and the 8. 1 and 7 are not alternate exteriors. They're exterior angles, but they're not alternate in space. Another example could be 2 and 7. Now let's look at alternate interior. An example of an alternate interior would be angles 3 and 6. So if you look at 3, it's on the inside there. It's not the exterior, it's on the interior. And you want alternate, so you alternate over here on the inside. So 3 and 6 are alternate interior. 4 and 5 are also alternate interior angles. And the last one, the angles are called consecutive interior angles. And an example of that is going to be 3 and 5. So let's look at that. You have 3 here, it's interior, and you have 5 here. That's interior too. And consecutive means they're just right after one another. So 3 comes after 5. And you also have 4 and 6 as your consecutive interior angles. So for tomorrow, you need to have all your notes done and ready to go. And also tonight, if you could print out the Quizlet cards for the 2 postulates, that would be fantastic. Thank you.